Hi. In today's video, we are going to discuss about loops in Java programming. As we all know, implementing loops for any application development whenever we are working on Java programming is essentially important. Generally, loops is the one which will be used to repeat the same functionality or the similar code of number of times when and wherever it is needed in application development while we are writing a Java code. Generally, loops have different types. There are different types of loops we have. So the first one is called for loop. At the same time, for each loop, while loop, and do while loop. These are the four different types of loops which normally we will be having in Java programming. So majorly, when we try to understand the number of times as many as classified in reference to the loops will be usually of three different types. One is we call it as defined loop, and second was indefinite loop and infinite loop. But majorly whatever the first two ones like defined loop and as well as indefinite loop are used more frequently when we are writing the program, whenever we are writing the Java programming. So definite loop and as well as indefinite loop will be used occasionally, frequent, but indefinite loop comparing to these two will be of less in implementation. So here I'm going to explain you about the syntax, right? So here this is what generally the loop syntax is. So wherein you can see over here. Yeah, so this is where generally loop syntax was for varied declaration, initialization and all that, wherein we need to use condition for termination as well as increment or decrement the value, or else one or more statements of logic, everything will be written over here. This is where generally the loop syntax is what generally it is being used whenever we are working on it. But whereas when it comes to the finite loop, this is where generally finite loop is being used here. So wherein you can see, so in reference to the finite loop, you can see over here, right? So it majorly iterates us, right? So it majorly iterates us the specific number of times, all that finite loop I'm talking about. It specify the number of times, whatever are we using on, like for integer value is 0 or else less than 10 or else the system output print line number has to be implemented. All these things will comes under that finite loop. But whereas when it comes to infinite loop here, infinite loop iterates the unlimited number of times because it is may not be the limited time, but it can be an unlimited time and all. This infinite loops which iterates unlimited number of times and all everything, wherein if you are providing integer I equal to 0, like for loop and all. At the same time, whatever the system output while true, right? So all these things are comes under the infinite loop. Next, the third one is called indefinite loop, wherein this indefinite loop, it iterates as many elements exist in the array, because as many elements are we existing in the particular array and all that. So this indefinite loop is being used here. So wherein we have to provide the string names like either it can be ABC XYZ as well as the name. Like for example, Raj is the name I have given, like string name, all that. For string names and as well as system output names and all everything will be mentioned over here. Right? So this is where generally this indefinite loop is being used here. So this is what and how generally the syntax in reference to the loops is what we use. One is for finite loop, infinite and as well as indefinite loop is all about. So this is what I'm explaining for the people who are new to programming, especially Java programming or something like, because nowadays irrespective of the kind of roles are we, right? So either we may be in the role of business analysis, or it may be because even a business analyst, nowadays it is important for us to learn some basics of programming so that at least it will provide us some additional benefit when and wherever it is needed. That's what I always suggest, right? So I don't say that learning detailed programming of Java or something else is not mandatory for the role of BA, but of course, knowing about something basics and all everything is what essentially useful. So the reason why I'm explaining all these things, right? So this is not only for them, even people who wants to learn programming language, a new basic programming language or something like. So basic things like loops and syntax, right? Right. So at the same time, we need to know about the elements, right? So all these things are essentially required so that it provide an additional advantage whenever we are working on the application development, while we are writing the programs, or when you are working on application development. All these things will be useful for the people who are working on it. So this is all about this video. If you have any questions, if you have any queries in regard to that, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.